Welcome to Vetted Shorts, where we delve into the fascinating, mysterious, and sometimes chilling corners of UFO lore and alien encounters. In today's episode, we're going tall, literally. Our spotlight is on one of the most enigmatic and whispered about beings in the extraterrestrial community, the tall whites. Tall whites, the very name conjures up a striking image: otherworldly beings towering above humans. Skin pale as freshly fallen snow, eyes intensely blue or pale, silent, watchful, and, according to numerous sources, benevolent observers of humankind. But who are the tall whites? Where do they come from? And what do they want with us? Stick around, because the story behind these celestial visitors is a journey through secrecy, high strangeness, and, believe it or not, the casinos of Las Vegas. Before we dive into their mysterious appearances and intentions, let's set the stage. The tall whites are often compared to another famous extraterrestrial archetype, the Nordics. Known for their striking resemblance to Scandinavians, think statuesque builds, ethereal good looks, and auras of serene, almost angelic calm, the tall whites are considered a distinct variant, notable for, as the name suggests, their unusual height and almost ghostly complexions. Generally reported as standing anywhere from 6.5 to a staggering 9 feet tall, these beings are said to have long, slender limbs and stand with an elegance that sends chills down the spine of those fortunate or unfortunate enough to encounter them. Their hair is white or platinum blonde, eyes a striking shade of blue or opaline. But what truly sets them apart is their skin, often described as translucent white, almost glowing in low light. Intriguingly, reports almost universally agree. The tall whites are not only physically imposing, but also profoundly intelligent and crucially benevolent. Unlike the cold indifference of the Greys or the reported aggression of reptilians, tall whites, at least in most accounts, are said to be deeply curious about humanity and sometimes even protective. But before you imagine our world peopled with snowy giants secretly running the show, let's jump back to one of the most compelling sources in tall white lore: the astonishing recollections of Charles James Hall. Charles James Hall, a former weather observer for the U.S. Air Force in the 1960s, was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base, near the remote and legendary Area 51. Hall claims to have had repeated up-close interactions with the tall whites while monitoring weather balloons on the base, encounters chronicled in painstaking detail in his memoir series, Millennial Hospitality. According to Hall, the tall whites lived in underground facilities within the Nellis Range, moving freely at night. In his accounts, they wore suits to protect themselves from Earth's atmosphere, a clue that, while human-like, they are clearly not from Earth. Their technology, he said, was centuries ahead of our own, including craft capable of darting in and out of sight, as if they could bend light itself. One of the central twists of Hall's testimony, and a detail that has rippled through UFO lore for decades, is the nature of the relationship between the U.S. military and the tall whites. According to Hall, these beings had a kind of diplomatic agreement with elements of the U.S. government. In exchange for allowing the tall whites to establish bases beneath the Nevada desert and safe passage for their craft, they would provide limited technology and insight. But are these stories true, or the fever dreams of a stressed airman in the high desert sun? The details are so peculiar, so consistent, and so widely echoed in other testimonies that even hardened skeptics find themselves pausing. After all, why would such a specific description, a race of tall, pale-skinned, benevolent observers involved in quasi-diplomatic exchange with secretive governments, crop up in multiple independent sources? So let's break down the mythology. If these tall whites are indeed real, what is their agenda? What do they want with us? And what evidence is there to support or debunk their story? In UFO lore, tall whites are not only observers, but sometimes guides, quietly nudging humanity toward higher consciousness or more peaceful coexistence. Some even suggest that they monitor nuclear sites, warning humans about the catastrophic potential of such weapons. Their involvement is said to be gentle, non-invasive, and often limited. Another fascinating twist: the rumors that tall whites, disguised in human-like clothing and with their advanced technology, have wandered among us in plain sight. There are even stories, urban legends with a shimmer of truth, about tall whites frequenting Las Vegas casinos, both out of curiosity and as a kind of cultural field trip. Talking about motivations, many allege that tall whites are deeply interested in human creativity and emotion. Unlike the analytical, logic-bound grays, tall whites are reputed to be fascinated by art, music, and the concept of love, a trait that resonates strongly with the classic Nordic archetype of wise, beautiful, near-angelic visitors. However, not all contactees feel completely at ease. According to multiple reports, while the tall whites are benevolent, there is an air of otherness to them, an emotional detachment, a profound difference in thinking that leaves some witnesses unsettled. Their form of communication is often described as telepathic, transmitting whole clusters of ideas or feelings in seconds. Hall described the tall whites as capable of making themselves nearly invisible, blending in with the pale desert rocks. He reported that they raised their own children on Earth, creating entire family units underground. Their lifespan, he said, could reach up to 800 years, with childhood alone lasting decades. A recurring motif in these stories is strict protocol. Hall noted that the younger tall whites, being jittery and skittish, could react aggressively if threatened, but their elders enforced a sort of non-interference policy. Conflict was to be avoided at all costs. This strict hierarchy and code of conduct are features rarely seen in other alien archetypes. But how do these stories hold up under scrutiny? Let's take a step back. Skeptics point out that most tall white accounts surface in isolated, high-pressure environments, deserts, military bases, or the strange liminal spaces of casinos late at night. Some argue that the tall white image fits suspiciously well with classic depictions of angels or European folklore's fair folk. Beautiful, aloof, and unpredictable. Moreover, many details echo the anxieties and hopes of the Cold War era, a period obsessed with nuclear technology, secret government deals, and mysterious visitors. Are the tall whites simply projections of our fear and longing for guidance? Or is there something genuinely uncanny transpiring in the dark, vast deserts of Nevada? If the reports of Charles Hall were the only ones, perhaps the story would fade as a quirk of the UFO subculture. But they're not alone. Across Europe, South America, and even Asia, there are sporadic, eerily congruent accounts of tall, pale, Nordic-like beings appearing briefly before witnesses, sometimes even intervening in moments of crisis or disaster. One case from Norway tells of a remote fishing village where witnesses reported seeing a glowing 8-foot-tall figure gently extract a drowning man from icy water, then vanish into the fjord's mist. In Argentina, a similar tale tells of an impossibly tall stranger rescuing children from a house fire, only to disappear before authorities arrive. Intriguingly, while abduction stories involving tall whites are exceedingly rare, guidance or rescue narratives abound. This helps explain their benevolent label in the canon of extraterrestrial archetypes. Other races may probe, experiment, or intimidate. But tall whites, if the stories are true, intervene to help, then melt away, leaving only questions. So let's address the elephant, or rather, the 9-foot-tall being in the room. If tall whites have such advanced technology, why stay hidden? Why the elaborate secrecy, the obscure meetings, the midnight walks in moonlit deserts? A popular thread in UFO research speculates that the tall whites, like the Nordics, adhere to something akin to the Prime Directive, popularized in science fiction. Avoid direct interference, shape cultures gently, and observe until humanity is ready. Ready for what? The full answer, if it exists, remains one of the cosmos' better-kept secrets. Still, there are those who believe the tall whites have left subtle fingerprints on our civilization for millennia. Some theorists go as far as to link them to ancient myths of wise, pale-skinned visitors from the sky. Beings that gave knowledge, set down laws, and then retreated, promising to return in a distant age. Could it be that our legends of angels, elves, or even gods are the faded memories of encounters with tall whites or their kin? The parallels are tantalizing, if not outright uncanny. Skeptics, of course, have their rebuttals. Psychological projection, cultural myth-making, the human tendency to anthropomorphize the unknown. It's all too easy, perhaps, to conjure beings who teach, protect, and stand as silent witnesses to humanity's rise and fall. But for every rational explanation, there are still cases that defy simple narrative. On the flip side, some researchers warn not to take benevolent at face value. While tall whites seem passive or even helpful, their advanced technology and hidden societies point to a power imbalance that should caution optimism. Are they truly our friends, or merely patient observers with their own agenda, waiting for a crucial moment? Critics also note that when compared to the Nordics, another staple of UFO lore, the tall whites seem both more aloof and more physically different. Where Nordics blend in almost seamlessly, tall whites' extreme stature and pallor set them apart, creating a sense of beauty that is at once compelling and alien. Tech enthusiasts also obsess over hints of tall white technology. Hall described craft that seem to float, shimmer, and resist all attempts at conventional description. Witnesses speak of objects that appear in one place and vanish in the next, of suits and devices that support their biology, and of a language that is far more musical than any human tongue. This technological gap, many theorists argue, is precisely why the tall whites maintain their low profile. If their existence became openly acknowledged, or worse, exploited, it could upend the global balance of power, making humans dangerously dependent or, conversely, reckless in pursuit of their secrets. Back to the Nevada desert. While most mainstream scientists dismiss these stories as fantasy, some argue there's another reason to investigate. The psychological impact of belief in tall whites is real. Entire communities and even segments of governments take them seriously. Real or not, the tall whites story is shaping parts of our narrative, our aspirations, and our fears. So, what can we learn from the legend of the tall whites? At its heart, this phenomenon is a mirror for humanity. For some, it represents hope, cosmic kin helping us avert disaster, shepherding us to a brighter future. For others, it's a cautionary tale about the dangers of projection, about the risks of surrendering agency to enigmatic outsiders. And then there are the experiencers, the people who claim direct contact with these beings. Their stories may be dismissed by skeptics, but their conviction is real. For them, the tall whites are a living part of their reality, whether that reality is objective or, as skeptics claim, forged in the fires of imagination. So here's the twist that keeps us all watching, all wondering. Every day, new stories emerge, some fantastical, some chillingly credible, of encounters with beings who walk just out of sight, guiding humanity down a path we may not even recognize. Maybe, just maybe, the tall whites are not here to conquer or even to save us. Maybe they're observing, learning, waiting to see if we rise to our own potential, if we can become the kind of species worthy of meeting our visitors as true equals in the cosmic dance. Or maybe they're only there, on the edge of our vision, reminding us that the universe is far wilder, stranger, and more wondrous than we can possibly imagine. As our knowledge grows, so too does the tall white legend. Are they saviors, or simply fellow travelers in this vast, mysterious cosmos? Whatever the truth, their story is far from over. So what do you think? Have you ever encountered something or someone that left you questioning reality? Could tall whites be real entities, noble guardians, or just elegant ghosts born from our need to believe? Drop your thoughts, theories, or even your own stories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey through UFO lore, hit like, subscribe, and tell us, what mysterious beings, strange sightings, or alien dossiers should we cover next on Vetted Shorts? Until then, keep your eyes open, your mind curious, and remember, sometimes the tallest tales hold the tallest truths. See you on the next Vetted Shorts.